Today is Yoga for Stress, 60-minute class, nice and gentle, nice and slow. And today's theme is honoring sorrow. So I'm going to read from Pixie, Honoring Sorrow, at the end of class. And this is our farewell class because we're letting go of our studio. So this studio has supported us with so many wonderful people through the time that we were open in person. And then it supported us while we were doing live classes. But we're in a big transition phase with our studio, with our company, and in our personal lives. So we're making some decisions, some transitions right now. And we're taking a break, mostly because of personal reasons. We have a family member we'd like to spend some time with. So I appreciate all of your support and love. I really do. I've really grown so much and learned so much on this journey. It's not the end. It's just farewell for now. We are saying farewell to our beautiful goddess. So that's a little sad. We're honoring her today. So honoring this space, honoring all that we have learned and grown and done together here, and letting it go. So letting go is hard. We're going to begin to lay down on the mat, on your back, start to land. So continue talking. Letting go is hard. So it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel a loss and a grief when people and things and life changes. I'm not going to deny that I'm a little bit sad that we're losing this space, but I'm also excited for what comes next. I'm ready for what comes next, and I know that our timing is perfect. Things have just fallen into place precisely as they kind of need to be at the moment, so it's okay. We're ready for the next phase. So as you're landing on the back, start to think about things in your own life. 2020 was a crazy year, crazy up and down year. So much changed in the world. So start to think about perhaps some of the things that you had to let go kind of suddenly, and maybe you did not get the chance to address it, to really feel it, let it be present, let that grief, let that loss be present. So as you're landing in the room, start to think about maybe some of the moments through 2020 that we maybe pushed some stuff aside to deal with later because it's just too much right now. And 2021 isn't, back to the way things were. However, we're getting a little more into the flow of the change. So maybe now is a good time to start to address some of the things that maybe we pushed down and didn't address. And rather than cognitively thinking of what that might be, start to address the body. Look and see if you can find any tension. See if you can find any particular muscle groups that seem to be super tight. Have you noticed more lower back pain? Have you noticed your legs are tight? Your glutes are tight? Maybe your shoulders. Maybe you're pinching between your shoulder blades. Maybe your neck. Maybe there's all kinds of things that have changed in your lifestyle. Maybe you sit at a desk more. Maybe you sit at a desk less. All these things that might have happened to the physical body changes. See if you can tune in and perhaps take a moment to really notice anything that might be present, anything that might be present in the physical body. Any stress, any tension, any holding and gripping. And then start to think about the breath. Notice if you're holding and gripping around the breath. And as you're looking in on tension in the body, notice if you're holding and gripping in the cognitive mind. So when we're looking around, when we're trying to find physical sensation in the physical body, are we starting to do that little explanation, cognitive processing? So, for example, I have a gripping in my hip, and I find it and I feel it, and rather than sitting with the sensation of that pain in my hip, I start to think. I start to turn my wheels in my head, and I start to say, oh, that must be because I was sitting this way, and this person was, and this moment was stressing me out, and I was sitting in a funny way, and I was starting to get stressed, and this built up, and I go along this little head story, this little cognitive story in my head, rather than just sitting with what is present here. So my hip is tight. How does it feel tight? Where does it feel tight? Sometimes when we can notice pain, it seems like the whole area, so maybe my hip is tight, but my whole low back feels tight. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, it's all about my back, and then I go away with my head story, and I don't really notice what actually is present. So start to really zero in, feel all the sensation you can find around the places where you feel tight. Where exactly does it feel tight? How much feels tight? Is it like a whole long muscle group, or is it just a little bit of inflammation in a joint? Just noticing, starting to really be present with what is present in your own body. And then we're going to move on to our breath. So practicing a breath, thinking about all of the parts of our lungs. If it's comfortable for you, bring your hands onto your torso. And we're going to start to think about our lower part of our lungs. So as we're breathing, we're going to breathe in fully, not with a lot of force, not with a lot of restriction. We're just going to gently and intentionally breathe in fully, filling up to the bottom of our lungs. So thinking about the bottom corner of our lungs, and then exhaling nice and slow, gently. So really connecting to the bottom of our lungs, thinking about bringing as much air as possible into the bottom of our lungs, and then thinking about also emptying completely the bottom of our lungs. If it helps, you can talk yourself through it to keep you focused. I am breathing in, and I am very slowly breathing out. And then if you're going to use your hands to help and assist, you're going to place your hands on the sides of your rib cage. And you can cross your body and place your hands like this, or you can just rest your hands on the sides of your rib cage, whichever is more comfortable. And we're going to think about the sides of our lungs. So imagine really focusing all of your fresh breath going into the sides of your lungs. Imagine you're just gently pressing your breath between each rib, and your ribs are really fully expanding to their maximum potential. Inhaling, filling up the sides. Exhaling, slowly letting all of the air come out, really emptying and experiencing empty lungs. Again, you can say to yourself, I am breathing in. I'm very slowly breathing out. And then think about the back of your lungs. So let your hands come down to wherever your arms and shoulders are comfortable, and think about the part of your lungs that are in the back. So imagine you're going to fill up the back of your lungs, connecting to your back on the ground. Imagine you could just gently lift yourself off the ground by filling up the back of your lungs. Inhale fully into the back of your lungs. Exhale fully, cleaning the back of your lungs. And then finally, bringing your awareness to just underneath your collarbones. And you can place your hands here. It helps you focus. We're going to fill up the top corners of our lungs. So finally, the top corners, thinking about watching our collarbones expand and rise and fall with each and every breath. And then let all thoughts of your breath go and just notice how you feel. Notice how you feel physically, mentally, and emotionally. And notice perhaps some changes just by a little focus on our breath. And then we're going to think about the weight of our head on the ground, and we're going to let our head roll slowly, heavy on the ground. Just connecting with the muscles in our neck, checking in on any tension we might have in our neck. Really being present with what is there. And then taking the fingertips and resting the fingertips in right where the skull meets the neck on either side of the spine, not onto the spine. And just move your fingertips around, connecting with this space, checking for any tension here. And then bring your arms down towards your hips. And we're going to just move with our breath here. So inhale, lift our arms up, active. So pressing our arms active and strong. Inhale, lift our arms up as if they're coming up over our head to touch the ground. Exhale, press our arms back down. So starting to feel our shoulders. Starting to feel our arms. Inhale, lift. And exhale, press. And then bring our fingertips up to the ceiling above the shoulders, pressing our arms up to the ceiling. Watch for pressing your neck, the back of your neck, down to the ground. Try to lift your chin, get a natural curve in your neck. Inhale, open the arms, active. So not floppy arms, active arms. Inhale, open. Exhale, squeeze close. Starting to feel the muscles of the chest. Checking in on the low back. Checking in on anywhere else that seems to be coming to the party without being invited. So check in on the muscles that seem to be holding tension. Focus up on the arms and chest. Bring the arms down to a T. So open the arms up, even with the shoulders, palms up. Press the shoulders into the ground. Watch for tension in the neck. And then we're going to bend the elbows. Take the hands up. So a gate shape with your arms. Press the elbows, shoulders down into the ground. Press the tops of the hands into the ground. And notice anywhere else that you feel tension. So check in on the low back, check in on the neck, and particularly check in around the jaw. Give a little tiny press of the back of the head into the ground. So everything is a little press. Pressing the tops of the hands down, pressing the arms and elbows and shoulders down, pressing the shoulder blades down, press the back of the head down. And now bring all of your focus to the center of the chest. Imagine that you could bring your fresh breath in directly into the center of your chest. Allow it to spread across the shoulders. And then exhale out, same space, exhaling from the center of the chest. Notice any tension in around the rib cage. Notice if it's tight around the shoulders. Continue focusing on breathing with just a little press of arms, head, and shoulders into the ground. Take a deep breath in, press a little firmer, and with the exhale, suddenly release all tension in any muscle. So really soften, loosen. Notice anywhere that still feels tight. Notice if your chest feels a little more open. Notice if there's some tension in around the rib cage. We're going to take our hands and our fingertips just on the edge of our rib cage. And we're going to take little tiny taps of our fingertips around the edge of our rib cage, just looking for any tension here. So just little tiny soft, like a little gentle finger massage, looking for tension here. You may or may not have it. If you find a place that feels a little tight, you can just gently take your fingers and imagine pulling, connecting to the skin and pulling apart just a little. A little tug of the skin can help reduce some of the tension in this space. And continuing nice, long, slow breaths, letting your ribcage expand with your breath. Check in on your hips, see if your hips are even on the ground. And take your hands and find your hip bones. So find your hip bones, find the top of your hip bones, and see if you really are even on the ground. See if your hip bones, one feels one way or the other way. Just notice. Not trying to correct, just notice what is present in your hip bones. Maybe you can wiggle a little and the muscles can release a little, but just noticing where your hips are in space. We're going to keep the left foot down, knee up. We're going to take the right foot up and cross the right ankle just below the right knee. So no joint touching, just above the ankle, just below the knee. We're going to press the right knee away from us. Start to feel the right leg. So start to just activate this right leg, pressing the knee away from us with the muscles of the leg, not the hand. Activate the leg, activate the right foot, and then take a really slow circle with the right foot. Slow as you can. Slow, slow, slow. And then back in the other direction. And then bring your leg up, active, hips grounded. We're going to take the knee above the hip, leg, ankle in line with the knee. And we're going to take the right foot and pull it out and in. out and in. So out and in. Neutral is in line with the knee, out to the right and in. So out, back to midline. With small movements, just trying to feel the muscles on the outside of the leg. And the knee above the hip, ankle in line with the knee. Slowly bring the ankle in towards the left side. So holding here, strong foot, muscles in your foot, muscles in your leg, hold here. Watch for wiggling around in between the hips. So keep the hips grounded. We're going to pull the heel towards the knee and then back. Heel comes towards the knee and back. So the focus is in bringing the heel towards the knee. Of course, the knee and the leg is going to move a little. The movement is small. We're just trying to connect to inner thigh, inner leg, some of the stabilizer muscles. And then bring the foot to the ceiling. And just start to feel what is present in the leg. Keeping the hip grounded. Sometimes even just keeping your hands in this space helps remind you to stay grounded. Pedal out the foot. So bend, pull the toes towards the shin, and then press the ball of the foot away. So starting to really feel what is present in the leg. You can keep a soft bend in the knee. Holding your leg here. We're going to turn the toes in towards midline and then all the way out, nice and slow. Toes in, toes out. So the focus is from the foot, but the leg is going to move. So toes in and toes out. Letting the leg move within the hip socket. Notice if the leg is starting to feel heavy. Take the toes in and little pulses. Pulse, 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 pulse. Take the toes all the way out. Pulse, 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 pulse. Notice any muscles that feel tired. Bend the knee, bring it in. Give yourself a little gentle hug. And then lower right leg. Take a little side sway with the knees and hips. So foot down on the ground, knee up. Just make sure everything is reset. There's no gripping. Hips are grounded. Left leg lifts. Ankle crosses just underneath the knee. Press the left knee away from you with a strong, active leg. Grounded hips. Breathe. Take a really slow ankle circle with this left foot and then back in the other way. And then knee above hip, ankle in line with knee. We're going to bring our toes, our heel in towards midline. And then we're going to pull in and out. Little movement. Pull the heel towards midline. Heel towards your nose. It's coming towards actually your right shoulder. And then back. Notice if one side is easier than the other. And then take your heel, knee in line, knee above hip, ankle in line with heel, and then ankle comes out to the left. Little pulses in and out here. So neutral and then out to the left. Neutral, out to the left. Focusing on pulling the heel with the muscles of the legs. Strong, active leg. Take the leg to the ceiling, press through the ball of the foot, pull the toes to the shin. And breathe. grounded hip. And then we're going to take the toes all the way in towards midline as far as they go, all the way out. So we're not just moving from the ankle. Obviously the leg is going to move, but the focus is toes in, toes out. Noticing if this side is easier or harder than the other side. Noticing if the leg is feeling very heavy. It's a sign that the muscles are weak and need strengthening. And then take the toes in, little pulses. Pulse in, pulse, small pulses. And then toes out, small pulses. Breathe. And then bring the left foot down, knee up, and take a little side sway with the hips. Place the feet down, knees up, and we're going to move, lifting the hips. So place the feet down in a comfortable position from the glutes. Too close to the glutes might be tight on the knees. Too far away is going to be harder on the backs of the legs. Find a position where you're comfortable. Feet down. Fire up the legs first. So press your feet into the ground. Give a gentle squeeze of the glutes. Not all your glutes can do. We want everything working. Give a little squeeze of the stomach muscles, leaving the rib cage down. Inhale, lift the hips. Exhale, lower. Move with your breath. Slow as you can, mindful movement. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Trying to get even use of the backs of the legs, the glutes, and the muscles in front of the hips that pull the stomach, pull the hips up. Check for tension in the neck. Check for overly tucking your chin and pushing the back of your neck down. Lower the hips. Take a little side sway with the knees and hips. Gentle. Bring the knees in towards the chest, a little hug. And you can rock it or keep it static. Find your breath. And then we're going to roll over straight onto our stomach. So legs long, roll over. Crocodile pose. So come on over slowly. One hand on top of the other, forehead down, shimmy the hips. Loosen, soften, let go. What is present? So notice what is present in the neck, the shoulders. Notice what you feel when you place your face down. Some people feel that this pose is different for everybody. So some people can feel that this is restrictive. Some people feel that this is very comforting. So notice what it is for you. There are no right or wrong answers, just exploration of what comes up for you. And we're going to think about the muscles of the back and trying again to think about that even use. So not only the glutes working, but the whole muscles of the back, everything in your back line, your upper back, mid back, low back, legs, everything. We're going to inhale as we lift the shoulders, exhale as we lower. We can lift our legs, we can leave our legs on the ground. Moving with our breath. Once we get up, we want to think about getting longer. from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Rather than this big arch and pulling on our spine, we want to use our back to get long and strong. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Try not to crank on the neck. Try to lift the shoulders. Keep the head even. Maybe starting to fire up the arms and lift the arms. Move with your breath. And then wherever you're at, come back to crocodile. Shimmy, loosen. What can you let go of? From here, we're going to place our forearms down. So our forearms down ahead of the shoulders, not entirely, right underneath. Give your shoulders a little space. So make some space, forearms down, connect. So your hands are going to press into the ground and then imagine they're pulling apart without moving. So a little bit of action. Start to fire up the chest, start to fire up the arms. Now you're trying to pull the elbows apart without letting them move. And then think about trying to pull the sternum towards the fingertips. Then lift the head and shoulders. Think about space in the throat. So we're lifting the head, not tucking it back. Lifting, pushing through the crown of the head. Start to think about space in the throat, and we're going to do lion's breath. So lion's breath is inhale in and a ha sound out with the tongue out. We're going to do it 3 times and then return to crocodile. So inhale in, ha out with the tongue out 3 times. Very forceful ha sound on the back of your throat. Thinking about cleaning our throat. Get rid of all those things stuck in your throat that you've said that you've regretted or held and regretted. Take a very deep breath in to prepare. Return back to crocodile pose. Notice any sensations that come up. Very, very slowly and gently roll back over onto your back. We are not coming up today. So, on our mat, nice and slow and gentle and soft. Land back here on your back. Feet down, knees up. Try and get softness in the low back and the neck. Softness in the shoulders, softness in the face. Land here. And notice if anything feels different than when we began in this position. We're going to pick up our shoulders, and we can lift our arms or we can leave our arms down. We're going to pick up our shoulders and let them drop suddenly. So pick and drop, pick and drop. Trying to get just those little vibrations that happen when you drop through the muscles, little somatic shake into the muscles. Then we're going to take the palms of our hands, place them down about halfway between the shoulders and the hips. And we're going to take little soft shakes. So you're pressing left and right into the heel of the hands, left and right, shaking. So trying to get those shakes Imagine that you're trying to shake a bowl of jelly between your hands. Everything soft, shaking, loosening. Take a deep breath in, and with the exhale, suddenly land. See where your body lands. Notice if you feel like there's kind of some pulls and tweaks in different directions. When we do that somatic shake, it's a little bit of a reset, and sometimes when we land, we can notice some holding patterns that perhaps we didn't notice before. So then we're going to think about that somatic shake for the hips. So take your feet a fair distance away from the glutes, nice and comfortable. And you're either going to lift and drop the hips, little tiny lift and drop, or take the hips left and right. So you're shimmying the hips left and right by pressing into the heels. So notice which one works better for you. Shimmy, loosen, soften. See if you can get the wiggles all the way down the legs, all the way through the torso. Take a deep breath in, and with the exhale, suddenly land. Notice where your body lands. Notice if one knee is in one direction, the other's in another. Notice, just feel, have an experience of where your holding patterns are. And then make a decision about where you would like to be for your resting pose. So lots of options. Traditionally, it was taken in corpse pose because we're trying to get to as close to being a corpse as possible. What does that mean? Take the meaning of what we're trying to achieve when we come to each pose. So this time, laying flat, we're looking for nothing other than to be as soft as possible. So trying to be as much like a corpse as possible. In other words, nothing is in our control. We are softly laying here. No muscle gripping, no mind gripping, no gripping on our breath. We're trying to be soft. So if this is not your ultimate soft position, prop up underneath the knees. See if that gives you more softness in the low back. Sometimes we're tight in the low back and glutes. Maybe you prefer laying on your stomach. Maybe you prefer curling up in a fetal position. Maybe you like your feet up on a chair. Please listen to your own body and find your own softness. Let go of everybody else's rules. Find your own practice. Yoga is the journey within, looking within and finding what is present, finding ways to live more harmoniously with whatever it is that is present. So coming to your resting pose, beginning to soften, beginning to land. And it can be very helpful to even say to yourself, right here in this moment, all of my needs are met. So start to think about it being just you and the mat. Nothing from yesterday, nothing from tomorrow. The to-do list, the things we have to do for the day are all not here right now. It's just us on the mat, breathing, landing, being present. Give yourself permission to land and soften. I'm thinking about emotions. So in the healing, natural, holistic space, wellness space, there's a lot of teaching about good vibes only and a lot of misconception about good vibes only. And there's a lot of practices that kind of paint over anything else with the good vibes only. So it's not that we sit and be present with whatever is present for ourselves. We tend to okay, well, I'm not being a good yogi because I feel sad today. And that's not what a good yogi would do. So I'm going to get rid of those sad feelings and I'm going to think about something that makes me happy. It's not quite the most beneficial way to look at it. So emotions are filters for our environment. They tell us what is going on inside. They tell us on what is going on in regards to how we are processing our outside lives, our inside lives. They're important filters. And oftentimes, they just flow. They come and go, they flow. And it's typically only when our head gets stuck in trying to process them that they become problematic, or when we intentionally try to shove them down and saying good vibes only today. So honoring times of sadness, honoring the fact that we do get sad and it's okay to be sad, honoring any of the emotions that perhaps we've judged as negative, allowing them their space, allowing them to feel that freedom to flow without one cognitively trying to bucket what it is, exactly what it is and why it is, and process it, and just let it flow, let it be an emotion. And two, without trying to judge whether it should or should not be there, giving ourselves compassion and kindness to feel what we feel and let it flow. So, as I said at the start of practice, this is our last day at the studio, so we are honoring sadness. We're honoring goodbyes, honoring our farewell, and it's only our farewell to our studio here, this particular space. It's a transition time for us, but it is somewhat sad. We have wonderful memories here that we're saying goodbye to. So I'm reading from Pixie, Prayers of Honoring. I come to this book often. I read a lot from her. I come to this book often. As you can see, it's very well worn. It's a very comforting book for me, and I like to share it. So please, feel free to look it up on Amazon and go purchase her book. She's amazing. Honoring Sorrow. Thank you for this day of open suffering. I am so glad about some things that have happened. It is unnerving that I cannot unmake them. Show me a place where I am free to express my mourning for as long as it takes. Put me in circles of others enduring ceaseless pain, and help us to shelter one another in care and flowing witness. Bless me with permission to feel the scars of the swords that have flayed me open. Grant mercy for my heartache as I travel this mysterious blue landscape. Help me navigate with purpose. I do not need to make meaning of it. There may not be an understanding that I can ever come to that will transmute the agony, but there is, I know. But if there is, I know you will show me the way. Let me lie quietly in your lap among the bones of ancestors powdered to dust beneath me. I need them to hold me and impart their wisdom about how to take the next step when I am ready. Let me forgive myself for my faults and the neglects which brought about the break with my spirit, my beloved, my child, my childhood. Help me to articulate the nature of my grievances and offer them up to the heavens, not to hurry up and get over them, but to ask for small spaces of respite between the waves. Ease the stress and anxiety of my unanswerable whys about unbearable losses. carry them for just a little while so that I may feel the weight lighten with the understanding that I don't have to heave the burdens of my heart alone. Give my hands a rest from wringing. Soften my face so that I may see I am still here beneath these big feelings. Unravel my worries about whether it might always be this way. Keep me present to my healing process. Help me engage my grief with consciousness. Remind me that every tear shed comes from the tribunal source of life, the river of my vulnerable heart. Touch me, teach me to be the one to release the torment of generations behind me and to be the one who wails for all of our losses. Open my spirit for the great exchange between you and me over this. So as you're laying on the ground, softening and letting the ground support you, think about offering up all of the held sadness. So as we do this process, think about it being a physical experience, not a mental experience. Try not to go down the rabbit hole of memories. And try to have a physical experience of allowing any sadness held in the body to soften and be released. Thinking about letting it be processed and knowing and trusting in yourself that what is ready to be processed will be processed. So things that you can do as feelings are overwhelming. Remind yourself that you are here on the ground, that the ground is supporting you, and that in this moment your needs are met. Remind yourself that you are here for yourself, to comfort yourself and give yourself compassion. Give yourself patience and understanding. And if you find the mind beginning to trail away in a memory and get overwhelmed, return to the physical sensation of laying on the mat and taking a few deep breaths. And as you begin to notice or connect to the concept of letting emotion stored in the body. So one of my favorite teachers likes to say the issues live in our tissues. So whenever there is a memory or a stress or an incident, our physical body responds as well as our mental body, and as well as our mind and our memories. Our physical body has a response. And unlike the animal kingdom, we don't just get up and shake that tension off our body. Many animals, you'll see them after a stress response, they'll shake and get rid of all those chemicals in the muscles. We have chemicals ready to get us ready to flee, and we don't get rid of them, and they stagnate and they sit. So as some of this stress is beginning to be processed, we can notice emotions floating. Sometimes you can come to a pose in a yoga class and begin giggling for absolutely no cognitive reason whatsoever. It just happens. Maybe you burst into tears and you have no idea why. Sometimes we're ready to process, we're ready to let some of that tension go. And when it becomes too much, when it becomes overwhelming, just return to grounding. Return to finding your body on the mat, feeling the mat, finding sensation, taking a few deep breaths, returning to being on your mat, being grounded, and resetting. And it's okay if you notice that the cognitive head is just doing too much work. And it's okay to say, I'm not ready to go there today. And just return to softening and letting go of tension in the body, loosening, grounding, finding your breath, and then getting quieter and quieter and quieter, perhaps even looking for the sound of your own heartbeat. And then, as we feel that perhaps we've released or honored some of the sadness in our body, without thinking about the fact that we're trying to replace it with joy, we're going to think about the concept that there's a possibility to hold space for opposites. So even when we're at our most sad, there is a possibility to make a little space for joy at the same time. And it's not that we're trying to replace all the sadness with joy. It is that we know that it's possible to experience opposites at the same time. Just as we have perhaps experienced wrapping up, bundling up into big warm jackets and being really, 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 really hot on the layer of our skin, and at the same time being outside and breathing cold, cold air. And at the very same moment, we're experiencing both hot and cold. We can experience both joy and sadness at the same time. We can make space. So if we're finishing practice today, bringing to mind a moment in nature. So some place where you go, where it's easy for you to picture. Can be a seaside, a forest, a place where you saw lots of flowers. Perhaps you saw some birds singing in a forest. A moment in nature where the only thing you thought about was that scene ahead of you. See if you can paint it in. Make it a familiar scene that you come back to often. And try to paint in the details so intensely that you're almost there right here in this moment. Experiencing that place, the beauty of nature. Perhaps you felt like it took your breath away and time completely stopped just for a moment while you absorbed this beautiful scene. And just as troubles and worries create familiar patterns in our brain, we can intentionally create familiar patterns and pathways for things that bring us comfort. So imagine making a little pathway to this scene in your brain so that you can come back to it as often as you need. Like it's a comfort something to ground you, something to remind you of the sensation of joy whenever you need to come to it. And if you have the time to take spending time in your resting pose, practicing softening and releasing, please take as much time as you need. If you need to finish up the 60-minute mark, we are coming up on that mark. So begin to bring a little bit of awareness to the physical body, softening and wiggling the fingers and toes. And if you're not there already, making your way over to a fetal position on whatever side is calling to you. Taking a moment to come to this pose and connect to this pose. We come to this pose to remind ourselves of a time in the womb, a time when all of our needs were met and we had not judged ourselves as negative or positive. We were simply a spark of life. And we come to this pose to remind ourselves that that spark of life exists within us, unchanged by our experiences, unchanged by that inner critic we carry around. So curl up as if you were protected and connect to that light within. Underneath all the layers of protection and walls we place up, connect within here as if recharging from your bliss center. Imagine that you could connect within so deeply that each and every cell slowly from your center is touched by a little recharging, a little resetting, a little softness, allowing it to spread all the way down to the fingertips, all the way down to the toes, to the crown of the head. This compassionate, soft feeling. Wrapping yourself in unconditional love. And then taking your time, coming on up to a seated position, bringing your hands to prayer and heart space. Connecting to bringing our left and right sides to meet in front of our heart. This gesture of accepting ourselves as whole and complete, precisely as we are. May you spend less time judging yourself as negative and positive. May each day bring you a little building block, a little foundation of compassionate kindness for you to build upon. May all beings be peaceful and at ease. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with us. And stay tuned for the rest of our journey. Thank you.